Trump decided to slap 25% tariff on steel and aluminum. Our favorite
Nazi Nepo baby
is trying to purchase OpenAI, and Trump gets judicial pushback for trying to retire all government employees.
On his way to New Orleans, he said that more new tariffs would be announced today.
Any steel coming into the United States is going to have a 25% tariff. U.S. Steel was one of our great companies, and through a lot of stupidity and bad government and also bad management of the company, it lost that luster. But it's going to gain it back, and tariffs are going to help.
All right, let's start out with something positive here. These tariffs are much better than the ones from last week. And you know what? I think that was just a test run, because a 25% tariff on steel and aluminum, if done correctly, is positive for domestic manufacturing. Done correctly, that is. Because you need industrial policy, preferably before tariffs, because all tariffs do is raise the price. That's the point. Don't even get me started on axing the IRS and replacing it with the ERS, because the IRS collected $4.9 trillion in 2024, with tariffs making a whopping 1.57%, meaning you would have to have a 119.51% tariff on everything. That's $119.51 avocado. Avocados. So, Mr. President, please keep the IRS and take your 25% tariffs on metals, and please invest in infrastructure, workforce, and the supply chains.
Hi there, Morgan. So an Elon Musk-led group of investors is reportedly making a $97.4 billion bid for control of the nonprofit arm of OpenAI. This is according to the Wall Street Journal. This appears to be an unsolicited offer.
All right, let's see who can AI generate the biggest dick, because Musk offered a light $97.4 billion for Sam Altman's OpenAI. Hey, ChatGPT, what do you think about this?
Don't worry. I'm not for sale, especially not to billionaires with a habit of making things worse.
Is this about saving OpenAI from turning for profit, or is it about controlling the competition and taking over the titan of a specific industry? Again,
breaking news that we want to bring to you this hour. It's about the federal buyout plan by the Trump administration. Just moments ago, a federal judge has blocked President Donald Trump's buyout plan for federal employees in place today and said he would consider imposing it for a longer period of time. The decision by U.S. District Judge George O'Toole in Boston prevents Trump's administration from implementing the buyout plan for now, giving a temporary victory to labor unions that have sued to stop it entirely. More than 2 million federal civilian employees had faced a midnight deadline to accept the proposal. It is unclear when the judge will rule on the union's request.
While Trump has been facing legal roadblocks over his executive orders, his biggest donor isn't doing much better. The Government Efficiency Department, I'm not calling it that, has been aggressively targeting federal agencies that look into his companies. Congress makes the budget, not a bureaucrat. This is illegal and unconstitutional, which is why the GED is facing multiple lawsuits, from privacy violations to free speech infringements to the fact that he's the largest federal contractor and now a government employee and has now hacked the Treasury and installed a private server. And it's good to keep in mind, as Trump pushes the legal boundaries with executive orders and as Musk is testing the limits of legal and ethical restrictions on special advisors in the government, both have been facing significant pushback. But the outcomes are uncertain. There's a chance nothing will come of this, and if there's anything I've learned about Trump, it's that is the only consistency, because it's not about draining the swamp or making America great again. It's about power. I control you, and I control you. Good night. Donald Trump had a private call with Putin about the war on Ukraine. Meanwhile, the Senate confirmed Tulsi Gabbard as Director of National Intelligence, someone who has taken action and statements appearing to align with Russian interests. And finally, Trump just handed one of Russia's biggest cybercriminals.
We're delighted to swear in our next Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard. Most of you know Tulsi. She's extraordinary courage and exceptional patriotism. She's devoted her entire life to public service, and I've watched her for years on different shows and everything. I said, she's a woman of great common sense, and, we like the common sense. It's a word that's being used a lot. I think we started it.
Tulsi Gabbard's confirmation as Director of National Intelligence wasn't that smooth. Both the Republicans and Democrats questioned Gabbard on her judgment. She's been known to criticize U.S. intelligence on Syria and has taken controversial stances on Russia. Yet, Gabbard passed with a 52-48 vote. And guess how many Democrats are in the Senate right now?
And as you pointed out in your statement regarding the confirmation of Tulsi Gabbard, there was one Republican who voted against the nomination of Tulsi Gabbard. It was Senator Mitch McConnell. Similarly, how does the administration view Senator McConnell? Can he be a partner in the president's legislative agenda? Are you disappointed that he voted against not only Tulsi Gabbard, but also Pete Hegseth to be the defense secretary?
I think we're greatly disappointed in any Republican who chooses willfully to vote against the president's exceptionally qualified cabinet nominees and picks to lead his America First administration.
Other than the GOP being cyberbullied by Musk to do so, she passed because Republicans want someone who will shake up the intelligence community because they think that it was weaponized against Trump.
So now, could this nightmare of a war finally come to an end? President Trump revealing in an exclusive interview with the New York Post that he has spoken with Vladimir Putin by telephone about ending the war in Ukraine.
Donald Trump has claimed he could end the war on Ukraine. And on a recent private call with Putin, he said that he's reaching an end to the war, bypassing diplomats and intelligence agencies. And of course, his Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, said,
"We want, like you, a sovereign and prosperous Ukraine. But we must start by recognizing that returning to Ukraine's pre-2014 borders is an unrealistic objective. Chasing this illusionary goal..."
This means Crimea gone, and Eastern Ukraine being up for negotiation. Feels like a sweetheart deal and Russia might get what they want. Plus,
we start the day's other headlines with the latest on a multinational prisoner exchange. U.S. officials say that Belarus released 3 detainees from jail today, including 1 American. That's part of a broader swap that saw the U.S. free Russian cybercriminal Alexander Vinnik. He was suspected of funneling billions of dollars through his cryptocurrency exchange and pleaded guilty last year to a money laundering charge. In return, Russia released American schoolteacher Mark Fogel.
Now, this isn't the first prisoner from Russia to be arrested for a small dose drug crime. And for all morality on drug use in other countries, I like to look to Ben Shapiro. Ben, how do we feel about Americans bringing medical cannabis into Russia?
Does this mean that she's a political prisoner in the same way that say, many other people in Russia are political prisoners? Seems doubtful to me. She did, in fact, violate drug law. She is not a person who's being put in jail because of her politics.
Great. Go to Russia, break the law, your fault.
So Mark Fogel had essentially been kidnapped by the Russians. The Russians have been taking American hostages. They've been condemning people to penal servitude for minor crimes. This is true of Brittany Griner, the WNBA player. The difference is Joe Biden had to trade a Russian arms dealer to get her back, as opposed to Mark Fogel, who came back for nothing, actually. According to the Washington Post, President Trump thanked Vladimir Putin on Tuesday night for releasing American teacher Mark Fogel, who was freed after 3.5 years of Russian imprisonment on drug charges in an exchange earlier in the day. President Trump welcomed Fogel back by ushering him into the White House, and then he also invited him to stay the night in the Lincoln bedroom.
Funny, when it's Biden, it's bad, and when it's Trump, it's good. And I think both of these situations are pretty tricky on their own. On one hand, I think it's important to keep criminals in prison. And on the other, I think it's good that we got Brittany Griner and Mark Fogel back from foreign prisons. It just feels like both of these swaps were good for Russia. And at least the Biden administration can say that they spent most of their time undermining the Russian economy and agenda. Unfortunately, this isn't just about one intelligence appointment, one phone call, or one prisoner swap. This is about Trump rewriting the rules of intelligence and diplomacy. And we don't know what the consequences are going to be. This is Reaganism on coke, and it is dismantling our union. I control you, and I control elites. Good night.